So if you're here, then I assume you've watched the first video. As you can probably see, we have our little dagger. But we also have set up a little bit of a scene, kind of a little bit of like a display in a way. Although, come to think of it, see, this is my problem. Let's make this a little bit larger, just to make sure it's all perfect. And maybe elevate this a tiny bit more so it stands out. And get us a little bit of a color. Actually, nah, because we're going to be working with this. But that being said, so our main thing is that I just UV unwrap this, and we're going to want to make this look like steel. Because, or metal, bronze, gold, whatever you make swords out of, something sharp and shiny. So we're going to call on here, we're going to assign a new material. Arnold, I always use AI standard surface, always work for me. There's other things you can use. Both Maya and Arnold, like ambient occlusion, all that stuff. All that stuff is really good. Standard surface is my standard. It's a nice standard surface. So as you can see, we have all our material attributes. And for starters, we're going to probably want to go with like a nice kind of, maybe like light gray. But we look over here. Actually, you know what? Let's add a little bit of color. Because nothing is 100% gray. Nothing's 100% black. I like to add a little bit of blue. So that's like a nice little tinge of like coolness to it. But that being said, now if you look over here, you see that there's a setting called metalness. So 0 is no metal. 1 is like full on chrome. Don't do 1. Unless you're dealing with chrome, in which case, whew. I usually kind of go between 0.6 and 0.8 for your average steel. And maybe a little bit higher for new steel or a little bit lower. But if we open up our render view, kind of looking like, yeah, it's shiny. Might still be interested in maybe changing the specularity, depending on how old or how new it is, or whatever. But we're not dealing with direct light based on our lighting setup. It's mostly just like a nice kind of ambient kind of orange light, which is fine. Being said, might increase the roughness a tiny bit just because personal flavor or personal preference of mine. And so yeah, you might be thinking, oh yeah, we got our sword done. That was easy. That you didn't show me any new cool tools. Well, guess what? That was a bruise. Now, imagine you're working in a production team and like you push this out and like your producer is just like, that looks cool, but we want Damascus steel. We want something a little bit more like this. How are you going to do that? And the answer is simple. We're going to introduce this thing known as the hypershade. So you probably can't see it, but in the top of your Maya folder, where all your Maya project, where all of the render settings are, and like your render view kind of tab is, right next to where the Arnold thing is, you'll see kind of like this eyeball looking thing. You click that, and it will take you into this. So, I'm surprised. This is all of your textures and such. We're gonna come on here so we can add it in. And just in general, I suggest making sure the tabs go away so we can actually do real work. But that being said, so as you can see, we have all of our stuff. Now, we're pretty much going to get rid of everything except for this. This right here is our node editor. Now, if you're familiar with rigging, you probably know about node editor. Essentially, from a top-down perspective. It's essentially a way to visualize what's happening and kind of modify the attributes of what's going on. It's a viewpoint, but it's also very powerful because it's borderline scripting. That's what it really is. In fact, a lot of game engines use node-based scripting languages because a lot of games are very object-based. So as you saw me do earlier there, we click this guy, and then we click this, and this is our current texture. You have out to a surface shader. This is usually textures have these, so they can just kind of be displayed. But either way, you have base color, diffuse roughness, diffuse specular, all that stuff. And just for the sake of clarity too, we're going to bring in the render view. Now if you click that little button right there, and I just clicked the little pause button, or stop button, it will pause the render. Where is it? I know there's a way you can put it up. I was going to put it to the side. The main thing is that I am assuming that you guys are working on one monitor. Usually I work on two. So I understand not everyone has that kind of luxury. But here, we can kind of see what's going on. So you're probably wondering, what am I gonna do with this new view, with this newfangled tool? Well, glad you asked. I'm gonna come along here and I'm gonna click tab. Now this can allow us to search for different textures and different little tools. I'm gonna go AI, and we're gonna do AI noise. And what this is going to do is go create a little bit of noise. So now we have our noise, but it's not currently connected. Well, it's going to be simple. You take this, and see how it's red? It means we're running along here. Connect it to the color. Now, as it stands, also by the way, if you have something selected, I'm going to click right over here, and have nothing happen. This is strange. Oh, this is a shadow. But, hold on. See what I mean? When texturing such is problem-based, normally what we can do, no, that's not it. Yeah. So as you can see here, it looks all weird. Like, what is this? This is what our noise is generating. So noise essentially is a way to kind of create distortion. Now, this might not sound useful, but think of things like dirt, or Damascus steel, or stuff like that. At times, this can be very easily simulated with noise. So, and we can modify the color and all this, and all sorts of things. So, if I'm mistaken, the octaves increase the frequency, like 8 being a lot. 1 being not so much, and then there's distortion. Oh yeah, it's on scalar, not. Oh, well, not doing vector. Ooh, that's ugly. But we can increase the distortion too. That kind of increases how much contrast there is. See, it almost kind of looks like fur at this point in time. So, kind of play around with that too. There's also the linearity. The attitude, which increases the general color range of it. And you just kind of like play around with these and see what happens. A lot of times you can get very interesting results if you just kind of like push the extremes. And that's not always the best thing. Sometimes you just want something simple, something that doesn't look weird. But we're going for weird. We're going to go full weird. So, buckle in. So maybe we're going to adjust the scale so it's like 5. And as you can see, now it's beginning to actually look like Damascus steel. Maybe not fully, but we're getting there. It's getting close. That's not it. But, yeah, that's getting close. And I might be a little bit like, oh, it's a bit too light. Well, guess what we can do? Come along here, go to our color history, and then maybe lighten this up just a tad. So it's not super duper dark. A nice kind of like. And then if we come by here, we did everything all correct. It should make it so that our sword is Damascusized. Or at least looks funky. It looks weird, right? It looks cool. And the thing is, that was just one tool. The truth of the matter is that there are tools in this that I don't even know about. And there's all sorts of textures you can plug in. You plug in fur, you can plug in marble, you can do all sorts of crazy stuff. Just play around with it. Hell, you can plug in other kind of files into this directly. Although, technically, when you do that like with a regular texture, you're kind of, it goes back and forth. And you'll see that, like, if you have like a really complex texture, you plug it in, that you'll see the connections. And it's honestly just really cool to, like, look at and realize what's going on underneath the Maya hood. But as you can see, a little bit of toying around and technical know-how, we can make something interesting. But yeah, that was the second part of my tutorial. If you have any questions, let me know. I'm available 24/7. And I hope you have a nice day.